I can't imagine something larger to that, even O scale especially too,
Yeah, the elevator facility. I could probably find a photo of it to share. The elevator facility that I built for Mike Wells. That was actually my first project for him. And what was funny about that project is he contacted me, and
Kevin, we're getting some really bad feedback.
For me?
Yeah, I can hear. Can you guys hear that? Maybe it's me.
Is it his chair? Maybe
it could be my chair.
No. I'm hearing like a repeat. I think it's me.
I'm not getting that.
Okay.
I am getting delays though from you guys. But
Yeah.
that might be me.
Well, that's everybody on the internet watching television right now too.
Yep.
I
feel like I've got like an echo of myself. That's I don't know.
See, and I don't hear that from you at all either.
Really? Okay.
To me, everybody's coming in clear from my side.
Yeah, you guys are clear for me.
Yeah, everybody's clear. I'm just like hearing myself.
Yeah, I'm close here. Where is it?
It could just be StreamYard for some reason.
Yeah, that could be too. I think generally this time of night, you've got people streaming everything, and then you got all the video game people too, and they end up hogging your the bandwidth in your neighborhood. At least that's what the AT&T guy tells me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens. I don't think
Is that why we need data centers?
Yeah, right. I actually just watched a video last night of some poor person's their water from their well, and it looked like chocolate milk coming out of their tap.
Oh my God.
And I've seen many videos like that actually. It only started for this guy recently. Did I go by that?
So I guess he's got a data center close by.
He does, and they just fired it up. And
I don't.
From what I understand, that happens. I don't know why it churns up the groundwater like that, but it does.
All right, we've got people in here. You guys ready to get this rolling?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
I see Joe made it in the chat.
What's going on, Joe?
Joe is in Nook Lines. He is actually on an Amtrak train heading to where, Anthony?
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. So he's watching us on the train.
Heck yeah.
Yep. All right, let's get this thing rolling.
Oh.
And we just lost Kevin. And we lost him.
It's Joe's fault. That's good. Everything was fine.
Yes. We can blame Joe. Yeah, I was getting a really bad echo at the beginning, but it's gone now. So I think what it was is I had YouTube opened.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Wonder if I do. Maybe that's why I'm hearing it.
Could.
Put it on the TV and see what comes up.
All right.
Oh, now I can't hear you.
Yep, I got you.
Same.
I can't hear anybody. All right.
It's like musical chairs.
This is high quality production right here.
So the TV is definitely behind. Not a lot, but a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that. I can't watch that and do this.
Yep.
Oh, now Cody's going.
That's better. Oh, what the hell?
You there? You good?
sunspots.
I have no idea what all that was.
Are you good now? You hear us?
Yeah. Now I'm
Perfect.
getting the feedback in my ears now.
Nope, there's Cody.
There we go.
You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome.
All
Now
right, everybody.
the feedback.
All
Wow,
right, hang on one second.
Nope.
That works.
Kevin, can you hear us now?
Yeah, and I don't have the feedback anymore. So
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm
All
not
right.
sure. I was trying to share a photo. I guess I won't do that again.
All good. All right, everybody good now?
I think so.
All right, let's get this thing rolling. So for everybody in here, we have Kevin Tully with Tully Models. And if you don't know, if you haven't been in the hobby very long, Kevin has a company, and you're going to have to help me with this, Kevin, because I was a little bit confused. Because I know you have Tully Models, and then you also have Industrial Modelers. You're going to have to help me. Industrial Modelers.
It is confusing, and it's because of the way that everything has grown, like wildfire with what I'm doing. Because it all started out as steel mill modeler supply, because that's what guys were asking me to do, was stuff for steel mills, because there kind of isn't much support for steel mill modelers. And then, a lot of those guys kept asking me for other industry type things. And then one day, a guy named Chad Thomas was building, he showed some photos of some gravity wagons he was building. And I was chatting with him, and I said, I could probably just make those for you. And so, much like the beginning of Steel Mill Modeler Supply with a gate valve photo that I posted up a photo of this gravity wagon, and that exploded. And guys were like, "Hey, can you make bucket elevators? Can you make this? Can you make that?" And it's not that I'm not an observant person, but I guess I just didn't realize all these products people were looking for. So I thought, I used to own a hot rod shop, and we specifically only worked on hot rods and customs made before 1964. And the reason we did that was, I used to tell people, well, if you have a 72 Camaro, you're not bringing it to a hot rod shop, and if you have a 32 Ford hot rod that's really from like the 50s, you're not taking that to a shop that's going to work on 90s Corvettes, because they're not going to know how to work on it. So, we were very specific about those things. And so when I started making these products, I thought, well, there's not a person on the planet that's going to go internet searching for gravity wagons on a site called Steel Mill Modeler Supply. So I thought, well, I better have another brand that just does ag type products. And Southern Tier Grain Modeler Supply was born, because I have a penchant for making really long and unnecessarily long names for companies. My hot rod shop was called Hot Rod Chassis and Cycle. We used to think that was a mouthful too.
That's awesome.
But and then Ray Arnott and I were talking one night, and he said, your website address is way too long, and it's difficult. They're catchy names, but it's a mouthful. I don't know why you just don't have Tully Models. And I thought, well, that's originally because, who's going to go looking for, I thought the name of the company should reflect what it produced.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in talking with him, he said, well, that can just be an umbrella. Tully Models is the catch-all for the stuff that doesn't fit in either one of the other brands. And, the other two can be like an umbrella, and the other two can be underneath of it, similar to like Chrysler had Dodge and Plymouth.
Yeah.
And so, people have generally accepted that. I made the change from Steel Mill Modeler Supply to Industrial Modeler Supply, and I didn't do that overnight. At first, I had the logo. My ex-partner is a graphic designer, so he still helps me with logos. He I had seen him do transitions of big time companies from a former name to a new name. And the correct way to do that is to have the new name small and continue the original logo, but the new name is in the small part of the logo. And then at some point after a few months, you change the new name to the big place and the old name to the smaller place. And then after a couple months later, you just get rid of the old name altogether. So I did that with Steel Mill Modeler Supply, and it became Industrial Modeler Supply. And I really had to do that because I would have people message me and say, hey, do you make stuff for material handling, or do you make stuff for paper mills or whatever, refinery items? And I'd say, yeah, but they weren't getting it because it was still Steel Mill Modeler Supply. They didn't know that I had that stuff. And since I've changed the name, actually the sales on all that stuff has gone up. So apparently marketing actually works when you listen to the people that know what they're doing, like my expert, who, you know, a few props for him. His name is Chad Hill. He runs a design studio called Django Studios. And he's done like Richard Petty and NASCAR. And I mean, he's had his fingers in a lot of really big time stuff, airborne fuel injection. And so I tend to listen to what he says, or I watch what he does and try to emulate that, even though it's just model railroading stuff. So I'm not sure if it's right to keep the Southern Tier Grain and the Industrial Modeler Supply names, but I think it's still working. So
yeah, I mean, me personally, now that I've heard Tully models so many times, it's just kind of, you know, it's resonated now. That's what I go to. I go to Tully models and I look for everything I got. And I think that's probably what you'll end up doing is once it's kind of beat in everybody's head, just kind of lose everything else, because like Ray said, Tully models is really easy to remember. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it rolls off the tongue a lot quicker.
Yep.
Well, I actually have been putting both logos, depending on what the product is. I've been putting both logos on the packaging, and in some of it I have put the Industrial Modeler Supply or the Southern Tier Grain Modeler Supply logos just kind of smaller off in a corner, so that you still know that it's an ag product. And I'll probably just continue doing that, but it is much easier for people to find the website and
well, speaking of logos, congrats on the 10-year anniversary.
Thanks.
That's a huge achievement in
That's big.
in the modeling world.
Well, I got into the 3D printing by accident. I always like to tell people I used to be a professional. Well, I guess I still am. I just do it in scale. I'm a professional fabricator.
Okay.
And I don't mean of the truth. So I always like to tell my apprentices, when I would have an apprentice under me, that a good fabricator is a lazy fabricator. And they always used to give me kind of this sideways look. And I'd say, well, you know, this is how it goes. Why are you going to make something that someone else already makes? That's a waste of time. If someone makes something and you can either order it without the mounting tabs or order it slightly modified and they're okay with that, even if it costs you a little bit more money, most of these companies that are making these things, it's way cheaper than you can make it by hand with no patterns and no punch presses and things like that. And so if you can find something that someone else already makes and modify it, or have it delivered without, like I said, mounting tabs or something, you should do that. So I'm building at our club. I'm going to be starting on this giant steel mill with 4 blast furnaces and a BOF and a bunch of other stuff. And if you're going to build a detailed blast furnace,
that takes patience.
Every blast furnace, the gas works, or the stoves and the gas works, have 15 gate valves on them. And so I have 4 to build, and that's 60 gate valves. And when I was watching Jeff Bourne's super detailing of all his blast furnace videos, as a fabricator, I'm watching him scratch build these gate valves. And I thought, okay, that looks like it takes about 45 minutes to cut all that stuff out. And then it probably takes about 45 minutes to put one of them together. And I actually met Jeff. He's a super nice guy. I met him a few years ago, and I asked him that, and he said, "Yeah, it's about an hour and a half per valve." And I'm like, "I ain't spending.
Oh my God.
I'm not spending an hour and a half per valve times 60. That ain't happening." So a friend of mine in the car world had been, when Fusion 360 came out, he knew this guy that was the head of the Fusion 360 department at AutoCAD, whose name I can't think of at the moment. He was also a super nice guy. And these two had been pestering me for a year to learn AutoCAD. They gave me a free copy of Fusion 360 to use. You got to learn this, because back then I was kind of somebody in the hot rod world. And so finally I thought, here I am building custom cars, and the one thing that drove me to learn CAD was building these stupid gate valves. So I found a print and I drew one up, and then I was like, oh, I'm just going to buy one of these cheapy 3D printers to print these things out. Well, you can't use FDM because it looks like garbage. And at the time, the only resin 3D printer for desktop that was even out there was a Formlabs Form 2, and they were like $3,500 a piece. And so, being the lazy person, I bought one. My ex was like, "What are you doing spending $3,500 on this tiny box?" And so I got it, and I printed out one of these gate valves, and I put a picture up on the steel mill modeling page on Facebook, and the thread lit up like a Christmas tree with people asking if they could buy those.
And you're like, oh my God, what have I done?
Light bulb. So, I ended up selling three of these valves for like $5. And I don't even know how many of those things I sold. But I realized then, of course, that led to, hey, can you make this part? Can you make actually in this model under the tallest thing there, it's called a dust collector. There's that gray machinery right under the cone on the bottom of it. It's called a pug mill. And this guy that worked at a steel mill had prints for one, and he says, "Hey, can you make me a pug mill for my my models?" And I was like, "Sure, I need to get a print." He goes, "Oh, I got one. I'll send it to you." So that's actually how a lot of this stuff happens.
Nice.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds weird, like I do. People might think I do lots of marketing research and whatever. But I'm just kind of a machinery nerd. And if I think something will sell and someone says, "Hey, can you make this?" I'll do the research on it and find the print, or maybe they'll have a print or pictures or whatever. And, I'll make the part. And there's like 600 items, I think, on my website. And honestly, some of them don't sell very well. I just thought they were cool. That's the big thing. Hey, that looks cool. I think I'll try to sell that. And I do have a list that's like as long as your leg of things people want me to do. And I'm sure at some point in time, people get kind of sick of waiting and they go to somebody else, which is fine. There's millions and millions of things people would want for their model trains, but for their layout. But yeah, so that's kind of how it all got going. I was lazy. There's no E. There's no E in my name. Yes. No. I didn't start by making the proto throttle holders. No.
So let's get into the models. Obviously, we've got a 2-hour show we've got to fill, and so let's we can start on the steel mill, which is what you started with. And I don't know anything about it, so you'll kind of have to walk us through it. But is this
Sure.
a model and kit that you built and painted here?
Yes. So I built that was a problem solver for a customer, a super nice guy over in South Bend named Jerry McCree. He's got a mind-blowing Pennsylvania Railroad layout with a scale horseshoe curve in his basement.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you want to come around the corner and horseshoe curve is there. And it's like, having been to horseshoe curve, I came around the corner and I'm like, that looks like it's scale. He goes, "Yeah, it is."
Nice.
Crazy
awesome.
town. Anyway, he had either someone else, I don't remember that part of the story, but they built this steel facility on his layout, and where they had run some tracks, was kind of where the gas system, the gas washer system, needed to be for the blast furnace. And so he asked if I could build something like this, and I did. So these don't normally sit up on this platform. That was there because there are actually tracks underneath of it.
Jesus.
And they say there's a prototype for anything. I got some really nice books on blast furnaces, and I've never seen this, but that doesn't mean at some point in time there wasn't a mill with this thing. So what would happen is off the top, the blast furnace has a lot of blast furnace gas and cinders and things that come out of the top of it when the furnace is at a heat, which is constantly once they start the furnace. And if you've ever seen a blast furnace, up at the top, there's 2 or 4 pipes that come off the top of the furnace that are called offtakes. And those go up and go into they gang them together into a giant pipe that comes from the top called a downcomer for kind of obvious reasons. And the downcomer comes down, and there's on the side of the tallest device here on the right, there's the pipe would come into kind of a glad hand fashion, like if your arm was going down and holding on to the side of the dust collector. And they're not all like that, but this one is. So the downcomer would come into there, and the first tall thing is called a dust collector, and it basically separates all the particulate matter out of the gas, most of it. And because it's coming in at the bottom, and it's the gas is coming down, it's forcing it up through the dust collector, and it comes out the pipe at the top. And then it goes down again into the bottom of the next metal device there. It's called a gas washer. So the gas goes in there, and you see there's like rings above the platforms with little pipes coming off the bottom. Those are actually water pipes. And the smaller ones go into the sides, and there are jets in there, and they mist spray water into the inside of this thing. And that's to collect more of the particulate matter out of the gas. And that goes up to the top of that, and then it goes down another pipe in the back that you can't see in this photo. You can just see at the top back of the short one, there's a gas column where the gas goes in. It goes halfway down that, and then if you look around the sides, there's looks like arms holding it, like hugging it. Those are pipes. They go into the side of this. This is called an electrostatic precipitator. So you can see there's a little transformer down on the left there with a connection that goes up into it. And so what they're doing is they're also spraying water into this, but it's electrostatically charged water. And that attracts the last bits of flotsam and jetsam that are in the gas. And it settles to the bottom as well. All these things get drained. And then from there, the pipe in the front that looks horizontal, that's a breech pipe. That comes out of the top of the electrostatic precipitator, and that would go to a gas plant. And they actually would use blast furnace gas as combustible, so they would actually use it. They could mix it with coke oven gas or natural gas, and they can fire the coke ovens with it. They can power the blowing engines in the blowing engine house with it. There's a boiler house, whatever. There's lots of uses for the blast furnace gas. So this is all just a matter of collecting all of that gas. And then I mentioned the pug mill that's on the gray thing that's on the bottom of the dust collector there on the right. That's actually like a screwdriver style, double screwdriver style auger. And it's got a water jet inside of it. And what it does is it takes all that dust out of the dust collector and mixes it with water kind of into a slurry muck. And it comes out of the bottom of it, and they transport it off. I've seen gondolas under these things. I don't think I've ever actually had anybody tell me exactly what they transport it with, but I've seen gondolas, and I've seen hoppers underneath of these. So I would assume that they transport that somewhere, I believe off to like a sintering plant, because it's got iron filings and coke breeze in it, so they can mix that and make sintered material that has coke and iron filings in it, and they put that back into the top of the blast furnace in a charge, because it's all about trying to use everything until it's not usable. So
Yeah. So do you make everything in this photo?
I make the gas washer and the pug mill. I make the actual body of the dust collector is from a Walther's blast furnace kit, but I make all the parts that to super detail it, because the Walther's one is pretty rudimentary. The actual only thing you save out of that kit to do what I have in front of you here is just the body of the dust collector itself, which is just a cylinder with like 2 cones on it.
Wow.
This has all my other stuff on it. And then the gas washer and the electrostatic precipitator are both kits that you can buy. And they come with everything you need except talent and paint. I make all the things on the platform there, the little transformer, and there's actually some electrical equipment stands for the wires off the transformer. I make those. The little utility shack, I make the actual gray crate there, or the tan crate on the right there. I make those. That's an electrical cabinet, heavy duty electrical cabinet that I make. That's all the way on the right there on the platform. All the shepherd's hook or platform style LED lamps, I make those.
Wow.
The lattice skirters are Central Valley, and all of the cage ladders are Tichy, and sort of the platforms and stairs. I'm a dealer for him, and I include his items in all of my kits. Again, good fabricator's a lazy fabricator. His kits are super nice. Why do I want to try and 3D print a cage ladder when he makes a beautiful cage ladder?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
I actually had I have a funny story about his cage ladder. Somebody was asking about cage ladders, Tichy cage ladders, on one of the Facebook groups the other day, and I got on and said, they're super great, and I really like them. And this one guy got on there and he goes, they're not anywhere close to prototype. What? I never thought about it. So I got out my steric caliper and I started measuring up his cage ladder, and apparently, and now this is the internet talking, I looked up what the typical rung distances are on industrial ladders, and it said 12 to 14 inches. I don't know if I've ever seen an industrial ladder with a 14-inch rung center to center, but whatever. And his are just under 14 inches. So I think they're probably close enough for HO scale.
Yeah.
HO scale inanimate figures to climb up. So
yeah, it's hard to please the rivet counters, that's for sure.
But so the lattice counters, and they're the lattice columns are Central Valley. I love their lattice columns, actually. This is an ingot stripper crane.
Okay.
In a mill, when one of the processes for making slabs or plate steel is that they take molten steel. I don't know if everybody knows, steel does not come out of a blast furnace. Iron comes out of a blast furnace. And then it goes from there either to a basic oxygen furnace or an electric arc furnace. And that's where they mix in alloying elements to make it steel. So once it's made into steel, they can pour it into ingots, ingot molds, which I sell those. One of the varieties is an 11-ton ingot mold. I make a fluted style ingot mold, and you can actually get the smooth inside ingot molds from State Tool and Die too. So, but they come out, they're just like a big brick of iron, of steel. And in order to get them out of the ingot molds, this device is used, this crane is used. So the molds stand up on an ingot mold car. I think I have one here. I don't have any ingot molds laying here. Yeah. So this is an ingot mold car. And you'd have several of these molds. The bottom part is called a stool. and they actually don't. They come off. I have this one glued on, but they actually are not part of the ingot mold. And the ingot mold itself sits on top, and they can pour the steel in from the top, or they have a special kind called a center pour, which there'd be 4 of these on here. And there's like a funnel that comes up the middle, and they pour the steel down the funnel, and it comes up like a magic whiskey glass into the molds. And then, I don't know if I can get this guy out of here. And so the ingot molds come out of, or the ingots come out of the ingot mold. And the way they're stripped is there's these ears on the side, and on that ingot mold stripper crane, there's like the legs that come down on the side of it. And they would lift the mold, and in the middle of that photograph, you can see there's like a pin in the middle of it, and the pin sets on the ingot itself, and they pull the mold off of it. So in between the big heavy duty looking jaws there's a pin that comes down out of there. You can't see it in this photo, but there's a pin, and the pin sits on top of the ingot and keeps it on the car. And then this whole thing raises up and strips the mold off of the ingot.
I got you. Wow, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, these things are pretty crazy looking. I've actually got if I could find it real quick, I've got a picture of this in the model. I built one of these in a stripper building for Jerry McCree's layout for his steel mill, and I lit everything up. I lit up it's stripping an ingot, and the ingot I've got it illuminated with an LED. But so it looks like it's a hot ingot. It looks impressive in a dark room.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. I've seen those on the cars before, those molds, but I didn't know the process of how they pull all that stuff out. That's pretty. I can't imagine what the weight on those little cars are.
You mean the capacity of the little cars?
Yeah.
Well, the ingots themselves are 11 tons a piece. So 4 of them is only going to be 44 tons.
Okay.
And, the molds, I don't know how much the molds themselves weigh. I mean, they're probably pretty damn heavy, I would think. And they spray the inside of it with lime that keeps it act like a mold release, liquid lime. This is an O scale coal bunker that I built for Mike down in Tennessee. That's what I was just delivering when I was down by your house. He's got a power plant. He's got a power plant on his O scale layout, and this thing is like 24 inches tall.
Oh, wow.
Those lattice columns are not made by Central Valley. I actually drew those up and 3D printed them because I don't think anybody makes those lattice columns.
2 foot tall on this model.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
Well, you figure you got to get an O scale car underneath of it, right?
Yeah.
I think the lattice column part of this thing is like 18 inches, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
That's
and
nice.
the detail the detail on those legs are just incredible.
It was fun to build, but that stuff is so massive, In HO, you could put lots of detail on something and wow everybody. But when you get into O scale, if you guys have ever seen somebody that does like Proto 48, you have to get like threads on things, on little bolts, in order to have super detail on those models, because everything is so huge you can actually see it,
Yeah. But almost brings out the extreme details and stuff, not just the smaller
crazy.
detail.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm always amazed by the O scale modelers that are building steam engines and stuff. I'm like, you guys are masters. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know, Kevin. You're up there pretty good, man. After seeing that blast furnace in that first photo, Jesus, I just can't imagine. The O scale seemed like it would be fun to build though, because everything is so large.
It is. It's fun. My my studio here is a disaster right now because I'm getting ready for the 2 shows, and I'm just like asses and elbows. But I actually, to my left here, I have a bench that I built when I was still in hot rodding. I built the framework for it, but I called up a countertop place, and I said, "Hey, look, I need a top for this table that I built, a granite top." And he said, "Well, how big is it?" And I said, "I want it to be 76 inches by 34 inches." And he goes, "Oh, what color?" I said, "Whatever color you can't sell to anybody else." Because I'm Scottish, so I'm cheap.
Yeah.
I said, you got to have something that's that size. It's the only one you have left, or somebody didn't want it or whatever. So he called me back a couple days later, and he had this like tannish colored one, and he had one that was pink, and I don't want a pink. Although it probably would have been smart to get the pink because I could see little gray parts on it. But so anyway, so I got this bench because it's huge, and if I'm building blast furnaces or big elevators or whatever, when I bring a model to your house, if it doesn't sit flat on your bench work, it's because your bench work isn't flat.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be arrogant, by trade, I'm actually a military aircraft machinist, a military aircraft fabricator, and part of that is being a military aircraft machinist. And so I wanted things to be as dead flat as they could possibly be, so that when I deliver them to someone, it's a nice product.
So somebody's asking, do you have any rebar or cable barriers? Do you sell those?
Rebar or cable? What do they mean by that? Do you mean like for a parking lot or something? Rebar or cable barriers? They're products of Marion Steel. I'll have to look that up. I don't know exactly what that is. I don't think. Maybe I do, and it's just not. I don't know the name for it. I got the all-knowing internet here. I guess I could look. Cable barriers. Okay.
So is this, before we get into the grain side of things, is this your full-time job now?
Yes.
Okay.
So I retired. I actually have another offshoot of what I do that is called Tully Models, which is what you guys see. That is my concept of, or not Tully Models, is scale modeling by Kevin J. Tully. That's kind of where all these models came from. People hire me to build stuff for them. I'm a professional scale modeler, and that's very easy to translate over to having been a professional fabricator for 20 years, because I'm still being a fabricator. It's just tiny things.
Yeah.
So the models that you are showing are ones that I built for people. So I do offer scale modeling services as well. And a few years ago, the aftermarket automotive world has changed drastically in the last 5 years, 6 years. And not necessarily because of COVID, but I could see the people that would walk in and want to drop $250,000 or more on a car, that was going away, and we could get into why that is, but it's basically the young people can't stay in a job long enough to have a pension. And so I still had plenty of work, but I had also been doing the 3D printing thing, and I had people starting to ask me to build things for them, and it got to the point where I couldn't do both. And my wife could see that it was really wearing on me. And she said, you if you want to retire from the car world, you can, and just do this. She said, you obviously have enough business. And of course, that's when you stick your toes in a pond, you don't know if you could swim. So I thought, well, I've been doing it for 20 years, and there was people that wanted to take over the business. And so my partner and I decided we were done. And because the traditional hot rodding and customs market, and we were also building high-end, like really high-end road race cars. and that was kind of, the market was changing.
Going away.
Yeah. The money just, people didn't have the money anymore, and the people that did already had a car. So, so I made the decision. She talked me into it. She said she'd support me 100%. So I stepped off, and I work like 60 hours a week. This retired stuff sucks because I'm working more now than before. I would leave the shop at 5 and I was just kind of done. But
now you're kind of stuck there all night, just working on things.
Well, I really try to. I'm very much a Christian person, and I have a family, and I try to make sure I'm paying attention to my family. As a military guy, not to get crazy personal, but I've had 2 ex-wives, thanks to me doing what I did in Uncle Sam's service, and I have learned a lot since my youth. And so now I put my family first. So I do try to knock off at 5. My son is really good. He comes down and says, "Papa, it's 5 o'clock. It's time to stop." Okay.
Probably the best kind of alarm clock you could have, though, right?
It is. And boy, let me tell you, he's on it like Janet too, but I swear he's upstairs watching the minute hand come around to 12, and he's down here. Hey, knock off.
All right. Well, let's get into to my favorite thing that you do, and that's the grain. You know, I'm building a grain facility on my way out now, and I've actually got some of your. I appreciate that. I've got some of your parts on there. I need some more, so that's what we're going to talk about in Chattanooga. So I'm going to bring photos and show you what I'm looking for, because I know you've got it, but I want to make sure I'm getting the right stuff. So, like I said, the best thing that I think you do, well, I mean, it all is great, but I'm a huge grain fan, being I love Montana, and that's a huge part of the railroad. And when I saw some of these products you're coming out with, I was just in awe, especially when I got one, because there was 2 things. The details on your models are incredible. It's like you went out there with a tape measure and measured everything, because it's perfect. But also, one thing that I like about your models is you have that everything in a box. And I ordered. I'm not even going to try to pronounce, because I know I'm not going to label it right. But I bought something from you. I built it and didn't need to buy anything else other than, like you said, talent and paint. And you don't know, as a modeler, you don't know how happy that makes me, that I don't have to go out and research to get other things for the model. Yeah. So the kit and everything in the box is probably one of the best things I've ever seen somebody do. And coming from a 3D printer, that's, usually you hear this stuff from Walthers and the big boys, but to have somebody as a 3D printer do that is pretty spectacular, what you're doing.
Well, hang on, my earbuds are dying. I think I'm gonna have to. Hopefully, I can go over to. Hold on, let me see if I can get this thing to. I gotta find where the.
So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up.
There we go. Now I can hear you.
So we'll go ahead and start with some of these photos you sent me, and I'm just, when you sent them to me, I'm like, there is no way. Are you kidding me? Like, it blows my mind at some of the stuff, and I'm not trying to make your head bigger. It won't fit in the camera, but some of these models are just incredible.
That is
well.
So this one, was this built for a customer here?
That's on Mark Nolan's Illinois Central Golf layout in Tennessee.
Okay. Yep.
He got a hold of me and he said, "Hey, I've got this. I've got these structures I need that are in Farina, Illinois. Can you build them?" And so I had built another the elevator that's on his Conrail end of his line and delivered it. And I had looked at Farina. He sent me a bunch of photographs. Mark's a very good customer because he tends to go to these places and take a ton of photographs. And then And then I actually, on the way home from there, my wife was nice enough to sit in the car for like an hour while I took photographs and measurements of all this stuff. Now, this elevator is no longer there. The warehouse is still there. It's covered in corrugated sheet now. And actually, the elevator was at the end of its life as well. But I did a ton of research, and I ended up finding photographs of the elevator itself, the original elevator. And you know, you could see the foundation from Google Earth still. And I had the pictures that I was able to scale off of. And so no one could tell me, none of the people that I spoke with from Farina could tell me when it got the corrugated sheet. But the original structure was board and batten, and I thought, well, that looks pretty cool. I like board and batten siding. So, and Mark thought it was okay too. So we did the whole thing in board and batten siding. And I asked on there's a Facebook page called you're from Farina if. So I got on there and I thought, well, there's a lot of old farmers around. I'm from a tiny little grain town as well. My mom ran the feed mill in town, and there's always old time farmers around that aren't farming anymore, but they like to tell stories, and they usually took some photographs too. So we actually got 3 photographs that are color photographs. So we were able to determine what color the building was, and it was gray. I'm not sure why it was gray. A lot of these things are white, but so we picked out a gray that looked pretty darn close and painted it gray. And there you go, you know. What's the best adhesive for some? So for my stuff that's 3D printed, for anything that's 3D printed, if you use a really good super glue, and I happen to like Loctite brand Loctite brand ultra liquid control. It's very thin super glue. I've kind of tried a bunch of super glues, and you know, it's all cyanoacrylate, but I think that the Loctite brand tends to do the nicest job. And if it's super dry in your house in the wintertime, you'll find it takes a long time to cure, but that's because super glue, the activator for super glue is moisture. And if your air in your house is super thin, it'll take a while to cure. And then I also like the label's gone off of it, but the Gorilla brand gel I like the best for if you need something that's more of a gel. And then actually there's a lot of really nice. There's a company called Display, and they have this. They're from China. I don't know if that's going to focus very well, but it's UV curing glue that you can use. This is stuff you use sparingly. You can't use like a ton of this and try to cure it. It doesn't work very well, but a very thin layer will work fantastic. And
you use like kind of like a UV light or something.
Yeah, you need to have a UV light.
Okay.
I got this one on Amazon, and I think it was like $25. And I'm telling you, this thing, I can feel the heat coming off of this thing. It's it's like a miniature sun. So, and then because I'm Mr. Organizer, I made up this little holder for it. So this is for the cable that goes with it.
Did you 3D print that?
I did. I 3D printed it.
So for your so obviously, I mean, with those bigger things, do you do kind of like the filament or the PLA kind of stuff, or for like your,
so if you see something from me that's white, I don't think I have everything sitting here because it's all packed up. If you see something from me that's white, that's actually styrene, and it's printed on an FDM printer. And the throttle holders are PLA. You could drive over these things with a truck, and those are also on the FDM printer. And I make base plates for a bunch of my stuff now too. The Ging white elevator kit that I make, I did not supply that with a base plate before, and I had somebody ask me one day, could you make a base plate for that? And so I did, and it has registers in it, so the bins and everything only go in one spot. and it's not very thick. It's like 50 thousandths thick, but it makes a very nice addition, and it makes it a little easier to move that thing around. You don't have to assemble it on the on the bench, or I had always suggested people use like a sheet of styrene, 60,000 styrene, but the base plates are cheap enough to make, so I just make those. But everything else is all printed on a resin printer.
Okay.
So, Kevin, as far as the painting, what's the best process for somebody to paint one of your kits? Do you prime it first?
I do. I actually had someone send me a photo not long ago that they used Tamiya primer on a part, which I really like. Tamiya thin primer. I also like Mr. Hobby primer. And then the paint crazed on it when he painted it, and I'm like, well, why did it paint? And I said, what kind of paint did you use? And he said Rust-Oleum. Well, Rust-Oleum is made for lawn furniture, not models. And I'm not saying I don't use Rust-Oleum. I actually do use Rust-Oleum if I have a foundation on something that's a concrete base. It's actually, is it Rust-Oleum? Yeah, it's Rust-Oleum chalked paint, because it has that grainy look to it. But it's on a, I don't primer that, but that's just on a foundation on a part. But I really like the Tamiya line of paints. Their paint is, if you've ever built one of their model kits are like insanely nice kits. And their paint line is really nice too for their spray paint. I pretty much only use Tamiya spray paint on stuff. There is a Rust-Oleum hobby paint that I use when I'm doing that's kind of a green color that I use when I make rebar loads for people, because it's kind of the right color, but I don't primer that stuff. But for the buildings, like this building is primered with Tamiya, and then I hosed it with it's actually Montana Model Works paint, I think it's called.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I'd have to go over my paint cabinet and grab a bottle of it, but it comes in a nice big, like, standard aerosol size, and Viejo makes a large spray paint can too that I've started using a couple of their grays on industrial stuff. And the nozzles that come with those two brands of paint are insane. They have one that's like a fog. It's just like using an airbrush. And then they have one that's a little more directed. It's a fan if you're painting a big surface with it. But it's not overly expensive either. If you did that with Tamiya, you'd be going through 5 or 6 of them little cans, and one of these Montana Model Works or the Viejo cans, they're like $20-25. And so they're pretty economical too.
Yeah. So let's talk about this building here. Obviously, this is one of your kits. Everything in this is something new.
That's a new kit. That's I'll have those. They're boxed up upstairs and ready to go. I'm taking those to release on Friday at RPM. So this.
Also, we're the opening show to show these.
Yeah. There's 3 of these buildings that you can use together, or you can use them. I designed them, or you can just use them by themselves too. This is the Millersburg feed mill. So this structure I call the Millersburg addition. The original building in the back is a board and batten structure that's just a tall kind of rectangular structure with a loading dock on the other end of it. And the great thing I like about seeing any industry is what I call the march of time. Yeah. You can tell the oldest part of an industry and the newest part and all the stuff in between, partially by the condition, but also by the design of it. And you can see, okay, well, the business started growing, so they had to add this building on, and the board and batten thing was out of style or whatever, or it was just less money to do clapboard siding. So the new structure is clapboard siding. And I like that mix because you could take the board and batten end of it and kind of weather it up a little more. And then this structure, you could not weather it so much, so it looked newer. And and there's actually a third structure you can use. You don't use the loading dock, although you could put this wall on the other side of the building, but that's theoretically that's the rail serve side of the building. But there's another smaller structure called an annex building that can go on the side of this building where instead of the loading dock and stuff. So you would still put the wall on, but just not put any of the windows and doors and stuff in it, not the loading dock. And the annex structure is only 3 inches wide, and it's just got one single pitch roof on it. And the idea behind that building is at the feed mill my mom ran, and at feed mills all over the country, oftentimes, the farmers would end up saying, hey, can you guys get me some baling wire, or man, I wish you guys sold barn paint or fence posts or whatever. And some of these businesses would put on like a little annex building, and they would end up selling those things or tractor parts or whatever out of that small annex building on the side of it. But I did the annex building so you could build it by itself too. It comes with 4 walls. All of these buildings come with 4 walls and windows to go in all the walls and everything. So they could be just standalone structures too. And the plan is to offer the buildings individually and then also offer like a package deal where you get a slight amount off, but you would get all 3 structures.
Nice. Yeah, I like that concept. I actually have 2. My grain facility is the same way. I wanted it to look like it had been added on over years. And same with my furniture factory. I have 2 large buildings, but one is kind of new and one is really old. So it looked like they added on. The business is growing. I love that part of the hobby. And that was the first thing I noticed here is you can go by the signage, the roll-up doors. Like there's just so much going on. But I didn't even pay attention until you said it, the board and batten. That's a nice look.
Yeah, and then the roof on the board and batten structure is shingles, and this building has a corrugated sheet roof on it. So I like that kind of stuff because it tells more of a story about the scene. When you just have nothing against Walthers, but if you just have a Walthers concrete elevator with the concrete bins next to it, and it looks exactly like everybody else's Walthers elevator, and it's painted white, no weathering. You could take that building and add a modern dryer next to it and a couple more bins and maybe a modern loader off the side of it instead of that loading shed from the 50s. And suddenly it's a completely different structure, and it tells a story. Oh, wow. The concrete structure was built in the 50s and they added the concrete silos in the 60s. And then as the business grew in the 70s, it was more economical just to buy the corrugated sheet bins. And, maybe they replaced their dryer in the 70s with one of the brand new Zimmerman tower dryers. And it just, in the way you weather all of those things tells the story too. The concrete building is a little bit weathered. So maybe some of the paint's chipped off and you can see the bare concrete underneath. But the Zimmerman dryer and the 2 bins are brand new, nice and shiny. They don't have any weathering on them, And I'm nerdy, so I look for stuff like that on a guy's layout. It doesn't mean everybody has to do that, but I like that stuff.
I did the same thing. So this building here.
So that building actually exists. That's the elevator that's in New Hartford, Iowa. And this nice guy that I know, Eric Grissman, asked me if I could make that, and I said I don't see why not. So I didn't drive over to Iowa, but Google Earth was my friend there, and he had actually some nice photos over there. So, and I've actually been contacted by another guy that wants it taller. I kind of made it a size that I thought people could get on their layout. This gentleman that's contacted me is actually modeling New Hartford, Iowa. And he wants it to scale height, which is this is only like 70 feet, and the actual height is like 108. So I'm going to make him one that's 108 tall.
That'll be nice.
Wow.
It will be cool. But you know, this thing has been super popular, and I think it's mostly just because it's kind of, I don't want to say it's stereotypical, but it's a little more typical style. There are the square ones like the Walders ones that are they're square all the way up, but there's a ton of these where there's a concrete head house that sits on concrete slipform silos all over the place. And so this has been a pretty popular kit.
Would this one be kind of considered like a more kind of like a modern kind of era, I guess, kind of grain elevator?
Believe it or not, they started building these slipform deals in the 50s.
Oh, okay.
And they actually don't really build them anymore. The silos, yes, they still do slipform silos, but with the concrete head house on the top, no. Most of the modern stuff, I'm not going to say in the last 20 years, but sometime this century, maybe even in the 90s, it just became more economical. A lot of the big new outfits you see are not slip forms at all. They're just giant steel silos or Balin silos, whatever. And they actually, instead of a head house, they'll just have a tower, a structure tower that they build, and there'll be 3 or 4 big bucket elevators in there. And the only structure for people that's there usually now is just a little block house or a simple prefab building that's the offices. And it's single story. There's one that's out west of here about an hour, and the place is unbelievably massive. The bins have got to be like 250,000 bushel or 500,000 bushel bins. And the only structure there is this little, looks like a little ranch house.
Oh, wow.
This is actually in Texas. This is in Rowena, Texas. And it's an interesting structure that I landed on. And I'm remiss because the guy that I got the idea for this thing from is an O scaler, and he wants one in O scale. And if he's listening, he's going to get it in O scale in August when I can catch my breath. But no one can really kind of figure out what the hell this thing was really for. There's a truck dump. The bins are really small, and it had rail service, and it also had a way to load into a truck. And it was just, it's all overgrown now. They haven't used it in a million years, but it was just fascinating to see the thing. And I thought, well, that looks like an interesting little vignette. You know, you could, I weathered the hell out of it like the one is now. But I'm sure at some point in time when it was newer, it would have all been silver and nice and shiny. I don't know what they even farm down there, to tell you the truth. I'm not familiar with ag in Texas other than beef.
Cotton.
Yeah, maybe this has something to do with cotton. And actually, in one of the pastime Google images from Google Earth, from Google Street View, there's a string of 2-bay hoppers sitting in the siding in front of this thing. Like 15.
Where was it at?
Huh?
Where was it at again?
It's in Rowena, Texas, and it's literally kind of in the middle of nowhere along a state highway.
I wonder if it was just kind of like a short, like transload facility or something, just something kind of small.
I wonder if the little bins weren't surge bins, and there's a vault under there. Obviously, for the truck dump, there's a vault because they'd have to go auger over to the elevator boot. And I wonder if there isn't the same auger doesn't come from underneath those bins. And they're more of a surge bin where they could, if there wasn't a rail car sitting there, if the crew was switching the cars out, if the trucks couldn't keep unloading, and they would just run the bucket elevator into the surge hoppers until there was a rail car sitting there.
You said Rowena, Texas?
ROW
ENA.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's west of San Angelo, northwest.
Yeah.
Between
It's
San
literally
Angelo
kind of
and
in the
Rome.
middle of nowhere. There's not really anything around it.
Yeah.
Just down the street down the highway from this, there's a building with a truck scale. So there was something going on there, but I don't know what.
Definitely a lot of farmland around there.
This is a Farm Fans dryer, two stack grain dryer. It's the one that's in Farina at the Ging White elevator. But I love the orange fans on it. It's got some color to it.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
Looks good.
this guy's a
Yeah,
good
that's
seller. I started making this dryer in like 1979.
Wow. Yeah, the detail on your models are just incredible.
Well, if I can't get a print for something, I'll actually, but I can go to it. I will actually go to it. I have a mobile setup with my laptop and and my mouse, and I take measuring tape with me, and I go back and forth between whatever it is, as long as I'm not going to get arrested and I've got permission. But this is an aggregate loader, limestone or just gravel, for coming out of a gravel pit. I have one guy, say you could use that for cement at a cement facility for loading hoppers. And it does have rotary valves on it, so they would certainly get the media moving into the hopper. And then it'll take the HO scale one. It will take Walther's conveyors.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I do. I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm lazy, right? I'm not gonna. I look at something and how much it's retailing for and what the level of detail is on it. And the Walther's conveyors aren't like super detailed, but they're economical. I think you get like 5 feet of conveyor in a box for like 15 or 20 bucks. And you can go a long way with them. And to me, that's the ones that I'm using in this facility. I'm actually building. This is a piece that you can buy separately, but ultimately it's for my limestone processing plant line of products.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the limestone kilns and the transfer house and the loader and things like that should be drawing your eye, not the conveyor.
Yeah, agreed.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do with the conveyors is, I put them together just straight out of the box. I do paint them differently than how Walther's, I mask off the conveyor belt and paint it black. I paint the top of it kind of a dark gray, and I'll weather the hell out of this. But I actually cut off the walkways because I didn't like the walkways. And so when I end up doing these for the club layout, I'll put titchy walkways on the side of here. I think they look nicer, and it's a better detail part. And then I'll put some lamps on it every so far. And like I said, I'll let that kind of be the visual that people see instead of rivet counting the conveyor. They can look at the other items.
Yeah. Another thing that I've noticed on your models that you do is the painting. The painting is just spectacular.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think some people get a little carried away with colors, but everything that I've seen it's really subtle, and toned down. So I don't know if it's the paint colors you choose or the weathering effect.
It's probably the weathering. It's a little bit the paint too. I mean, I look at, the one thing I always try to get people to do is not pigeonhole yourself. Like with the buildings you were showing earlier, the feed mill buildings that I'm going to release. Is it a feed mill building, or is it a structure for your lumber mill, or just some little place in a small town that's selling cinder blocks? I don't know. It doesn't need to be the thing just because of what the title on the box says it is. That doesn't mean that that's what it is.
Yeah.
And so I find that people kind of pigeonhole themselves sometimes with paint colors too, especially model railroaders.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have model railroad in the title somewhere on the paint jar, I can't use that. Man, I'm telling you, I don't care what it says on the jar. I've got stuff over there that says Tamiya Fantasy color, but it's a silver and it looks really nice. And I don't care if it's supposed to be on Dragon's Tails or whatever. It's on my bins.
There you go.
And this is a Tamiya color too. I call it machinery green. Let me go grab a jar of it because I can't remember what the real name is.
Looks like cockpit green to me.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
It's,
Don't be stealing my colors.
I don't have my
Yeah.
glasses on. It's AS29 gray green UN. So it's like a UN color.
That's an awesome color.
That's good
Well,
color for sure.
If you've been in any of these facilities, I mean, half the time that stuff is that color, or it's red or blue or
Yeah.
white. And so I hose it down with that, and then I usually will dull coat with Mr. Hobby matte clear, super matte clear,
Mhm.
and I do that because I like using pan pastels. I use other stuff too, but pan pastels are a favorite, and so I dull coat it because the pan pastel takes to the model better that way. The other thing I do is I'll do a layer of pan pastels and if anybody's ever used those and you're like, wow, this looks fantastic. Okay, I'm going to fix it with some in place with some dull coat. And then you hose it down with dull coat and you come back and you're like, wait a minute, I weathered this. But you can use that to your advantage. The thing about weathering that people always say is that if you don't like your weathering, walk away from it and let it dry. When you come back, it might look fantastic.
I tell everybody that.
Yeah.
Do some weathering, walk away, and let your eyes get readjusted because it's amazing how much it'll change.
Well, I have discovered so many things by accident, and I think a lot of guys will, the really big time professional weathering guys will probably tell you that some of the things that they discovered that they could weather with or do or by accident. And so the one thing I always like to tell guys is you need to sneak up on things, and weathering can be like that, and so for that particular model, I would weather it with white. It's a limestone plant. And if you've ever been to one, everything, including your car and clothes, are covered in white powder by the time you leave. So I weathered the hell out of it with white pan pastel on a makeup brush, a big fluffy makeup brush. And then I took a smaller makeup brush to put more of it around the seams, the bolted seams on the panels on the hoppers. And then I hosed it down and came back, and most of it is gone, but you just do it again. And what you're doing is you're sneaking up on it and you're sealing it each time. And if you do that, when it gets to a level that you like, please stop. You haven't overdone anything. But if it keeps fading away, but each time it fades away, it's a little less because you're adding more and more layers. It will show up the way you want it eventually when one of the dull coats dries up and you're like, oh, that looks fantastic. And the nice thing I like about the Mr. Hobby Super Clear too is it flashes off pretty fast. I mean, I did that whole weathering job in the afternoon, and because I got something else to do, I do a little weathering, I hose it down, and then I come back like half an hour later and it's dry. You can go at it again,
Somebody's asking, do you do garden scale?
I have people that ask me that, and the someone out there will tell me I'm wrong, but the resin printed stuff does not it's UV cured, right? So I tell people that it will not survive in direct sunlight on their garden scale railroad. I had one guy say that most of his was in shade, and he was willing to accept the risk. And I said, that's fine, but I'm just telling you. there are FDM filaments that survive quite nicely in a sunlight environment, but you don't get the detail out of those. So it was basically all what he wanted, you know. The one thing I'm not familiar with is I'm sure that stuff gets caught in the rain eventually, and if I built something wooden, I'm not sure. I would probably go overboard and want to be hitting the whole thing with spar varnish or whatever so that it wouldn't get ruined in the rain. But you know, I just don't have the experience yet, and I kind of don't know who to talk to about that other than the garden modeler himself. He probably knows. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So somebody looked it up. Rowena, Texas was Rowena Seed Supply, according to historical records.
well, that would make sense why why those bins were so small, maybe.
But they did do a lot of cotton in that area for sure.
Well, sure, it could be cottonseed, you know.
Yeah.
I still don't understand. I think more so, I'm glad to know what it was. It was a cottonseed or a seed business. I still don't understand. I guess I could understand. I don't understand why there's a truck dump and the same leg is feeding rail cars, the bins, and trucks in a tiny little facility like that. I don't get that. I'm trying to think about the workflow. Are the trucks bringing things in and dumping it, and it's going into the bins, and then at some time it's going into another truck, or is the stuff? The one thing I could not see, and the gentleman that sent me the photos did not go take a picture of. I don't know if there was a track hopper there also, because that would make sense too. If the rail cars were delivering seed, and it was being the bucket elevator was lifting it into the trucks, but then why is there one that goes back to the rail cars too? I don't know. It's just a bizarre facility. I'd love to talk to somebody that actually worked there.
This one is one of my favorites that you sent me. I don't know what it is about it. To me, it looks like this thing has been added on to a couple of times. I guess
It has.
That's the kind of the idea that I got behind it was they just keep adding to it, and it's just I love stuff like that because to me you just keep staring at it, trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, when things have been added to it, you know, kind of year wise, and you know, kind of what it might end up, you know, I guess actually kind of doing and stuff like that. So it's definitely cool. Very, very cool model that you've done there.
That is known as I did not know this because the Ging brothers actually started this elevator business right after the Civil War, believe it or not. And this is their number 2 facility in Farina. The other gray buildings were what was there originally. The elevator itself was there originally, and then they built the warehouse and the bagging house in the front. And then the concrete elevator itself is known as the white elevator, which I recently learned. I did not know that, but everyone called it the white elevator because it was white, and I guess because the other one was gray. And they did add on to it because I have a photo of this elevator when they were building it, and then I have one from like the 60s, and the Colombian steel tank bins were not there. And actually, where the tall bucket elevator in the back and the shorter one in the front were not originally there either. They added those in the 70s. And actually, where the wet bin is in the front here, originally that was a cob burner, and I've actually had people ask me to do the cob burner, but I don't have any really clear photos of it, so I don't know what it really looks like. I've just got like an aerial view that's really grainy. But apparently the people in Farina all talk about the smell of the cobs burning at one time. And then they added the Colombian steel tank bins to it and the 2 other bucket elevators later. And there's a little feed bin that's kind of tucked in behind the 18-foot Colombian steel bin. And I'm not sure really what they did with that. They actually had this was north of the gray buildings. And then just north of this building, there was a feed mill building that was a concrete block, a cinder block building that I'm actually going to do as well. And then beyond that, to the north on this, all on the same track, they added a slip form silo and a tower dryer and 3 48-foot bins, I think they are, later. And actually, ADM owns all of this now, and they're going to bulldoze all of it, unfortunately. But they don't use any of it. I actually got to talk to an ADM guy when I was there, and he said that in order to bring this thing up to code, they would have to rewire the whole thing and put new bucket elevators in it. It's just not economical for them. They've got across the tracks, further north on the other side of the street, they've got a massive Corvette building and some giant silos or bins over there too, that they just built a whole new facility on our side, and they're just going to bulldoze all this and sell the property off, I guess.
Wild.
So, Kevin, I notice on all your buildings, all the signage, do you sell that with your kits as well?
It does come with it. Yeah. This sign is illuminated.
Oh, wow.
And that sign is actually there. The real one is neon, or it was. And they, please mention the real, the IC served this, and then the ICG.
Oh, wow.
And then at some point in time when the neon stopped working, or for whatever reason, if you look just to the right of the sign, there's a little speck of gray. That's like a security light, and they added 2 security lights up there with conduit running between, with just lamps to light up the sign. And
okay.
I chose that method. I actually looked into getting one of the companies that makes the neon type signs that for HO scale. I messaged both of those companies, and it was a crazy amount of money to have them do this sign for me in neon. So that, and I mean like $1,500, and I had to buy, I think I had to buy 200 units or 300 units.
Wow.
I think it was a go away price. I think they just didn't know. But anyway, the people that owned the elevator gave me an out. So what it comes with is those little security lights. The kit comes with 2 0402 LEDs that the holes are already there and everything. All you gotta do is thread the wire through the hole, and then use a little bit of canopy glue to hold the lamp in place, preferably with the face of the LED pointing at the sign.
Does that run off 9-volt battery, or?
No, you can run it off of your accessory power.
Okay.
It comes with the resistors. You have to supply wire. I didn't supply wire with it, but you gotta. Yeah. In the instructions, it talks about installing the lamps and wiring them up and letting the wire hang out the bottom of the model. That's
really cool, though, that you thought of that.
Somewhere I have a photo of it lit up. I don't know if I think Mark will probably illuminate the one on his layout. He doesn't do night ops, but I think he said he is going to hook up the lights.
Yeah.
And there, you notice there aren't any like sconce lamps or anything else on this. And that's because at the real facility, they had lights on poles around the facility, which kind of makes sense. The lights would probably last longer because these things do vibrate from the bucket elevators running. So.
Yeah. Very cool model.
This is a hydrogen pressure vessel. That's what I'm told it is. And it's just a really cool flat car load. I'm kind of a nerd for, guys go out rail fanning. I always get teased about this. Guys go out rail fanning and are like, I'm really looking forward to seeing the 7215 Norfolk Southern engine today. I could care less. I don't look for box cars or anything like that. I look for depressed center cars. I look for goofy Halliburton cement cars, whatever. I mean, I like all the goofy stuff and the really interesting loads that are on depressed centers and standard flat cars. So I'm that guy. If I go rail fanning for the day and all I see is mixed freights and there's no goofy cars, I'm like, nah, whatever.
Yeah, I'm kind of that way with intermodal trains. Like that.
Yeah. So everybody's got their nerd on, right? That's the great thing about model railroading. But I love goofy loads. And so when I saw this thing, I'm like, oh my God, I have to do this load. It wasn't really a choice.
Let's talk about this kit here. So if you buy the kit from you, what all are you assembling? Everything?
So the load itself comes pretty much like you see it. You have to install the lift rings. The hand wheels are on the valves. And I tell people to be super careful with them because they're really tiny and they're easy to break them off.
Mm-hmm.
But if you did break them off, take a 4-spoke hand wheel from Precision Scale or somebody and glue it back on. So I did speak with BNSF clearance and Lars. This one would pass as designed today. Yeah. And I have to tell you why, because I know Joe Farr, and Joe Farr is like the head of the people that do this on the BNSF. And he helped me design this rigging. And he's nice enough. I've become very good friends with him. So if I build a load, even for myself, I send him a picture of it and say, hey man, would you ship this? And I felt pretty good because when I posted the pictures of this the first time on Freight Load Modelers, apparently there's another guy on there that's an inspector, and he inspects to make sure everything's correct. And there were people trying to nitpick it, and he got on there and say I'd pass that any day of the week. Nice. So I felt pretty good about it. That's but awesome. You actually get a loading diagram. You get all the wood. You get all the signage. In this kit, you get you also get chart pack tape to do the banding. You get brass rod to do the threaded rod tie downs, and you get all the
everything in the box.
You get everything except the flat car. I actually had a guy was sent me kind of an angry email. Hey, there's no flat car in this box, and I'm like, no, it says load kit. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's been a pretty popular load. Yeah, the Halliburton cars are awesome. I actually was going to do those cars, and then Rapido saved me because I wanted to do those cars, but I didn't really want to do them. And then Rapido said, "Oh, we're going to do those cars." I was like, "Oh, thank God." I don't have to do those cars now.
I know my father actually used to work for Halliburton, and one of the facilities that he worked at in Indiana, Pennsylvania, they had a lot of really cool style cars that would kind of come in, just all kinds of crazy, random looking, like just rail cars and stuff that would come in, park there, essentially just kind of leave them there for a little bit, and mainly storage and stuff. But
yeah,
I know he had gotten a lot of interesting pictures of the cars kind of up close and stuff. So it was cool kind of seeing that stuff.
Well, since you're showing this photo, I have a lot of loads that are on my site that I manufacture to sell, and I'm slowly taking all of them to the everything's in a box kit, because I sold loads forever. And then I would see someone that had just, hosed it down with some silver paint or whatever and used some goop and plopped it on a flat car. And I'm like, guys, it's not that hard to do this as an AAR load. I mean, you can get on the AAR website and look up the diagram. And I had this experience, I guess, because of the way my head works. I'm not from a generation that was told you can't do something. And my mother and my dad certainly never convinced me of that. They convinced us that we could do anything we wanted. So I've always had that mentality. And I think because I'm a professional fabricator, I miss sometimes that other people don't think that way all the time. And I really try to encourage people that you can do a load like this. Um, and it comes back to the scratch building thing. Scratch building kind of fell away for a while. And if you were a scratch builder, when you were talking to someone, I remember 15, 20 years ago, if you said you were a scratch builder and showed some of your stuff and it was really nice, people were like, oh my God, that's amazing, because all they knew was kit building. And I really tried to help people see that, all a model kit is supplied parts and an instruction sheet. And if you look at it that way, you can make your own instruction sheet. If you're doing an AAR load and you go on their website, they're literally giving you the instructions on how to tie that load down to a flat car or put it in a gondola. They're telling you what size lumber to use. They're telling you what size wire or banding to use, threaded rod. They're telling you how to make the things and how to attach them to the car. It's an instruction sheet. And so the difference there is that you can't just go to the box and pull all the lumber out of there. You've got to go to Northeastern Scale Lumber and order the lumber sizes correctly. You've got to go, people don't realize that most of us use chart pack tape for banding because it's scale. It's really darn close to 1 or 2 inch banding. And that's the part is, as a fabricator, you always think outside the box, right? What can I use that looks like that? And as modelers, I feel like, especially today with so much ready to run stuff, I think people maybe need to rediscover that it's a shape. You just need to go find the shape or find the thing. And with the Facebook, it's not going to steal your soul. You can get on there and ask people questions. And guys are super friendly. They're ready to tell you, I use chart pack tape, 1/16 inch chart pack tape. That's what you use for banding. Or I got my stuff from Northeast Scale Lumber. Or that's just 20 thousandths brass rod. It's close enough and it's easy to work with. And once you have all the materials, then it's just measuring and cutting and putting it on. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
This is one of the kits that I just upgraded to an everything's in the box kit. It's got a diagram in it. It's got all the materials. You just need a nice looking flat car and the ability to clean up the 3D print and paint it. And you can put it on a GSC flat car like this one is, or put it on an ultra modern 62-foot flat car or whatever. It doesn't matter what it goes on. Now, I built the crate that's on this load from Scale Lumber, but the kit comes with 3 crates that you can just paint, or you can get a wooden crate from, I sell Rail Scale Models wooden crates. They're super nice. Or you can buy some from Steven over at Rail Scale Models. You can grab some crates from him and build wooden crates to put on there, or just build it yourself like I did out of Scale Lumber. But anyway, the nice thing is the kits are more expensive, and that's the one thing that I hope people realize is that the kit is a little more expensive, but when you get it home, you take everything out of the box, weather up your flat car, and go to town, and you can build a load that looks exactly like this.
Yeah.
When you talk about like cleaning the resin prints, like what do you typically like recommend people do? I guess kind of like a wet sand, or you just kind of hit them with like sandpaper, or?
So the way that I try to print mine is so that all of the contact points are on the bottom of the print. So you can pick and choose what you want to take off. Mm-hmm. The orientation of the print sometimes necessitates that you're going to see something on the end. But like when you get the hydrogen pressure vessel load, that's printed on an angle. So one end of the tank can have little ripples in it. I recommend wet sanding it very carefully, or using sanding sticks to get rid of that stuff. I will usually use jeweler's files, or you know what a riffler file is?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I use riffler files a lot too, and that's all about the pressure, right? If you're pushing really hard, you're going to gouge the shit out of it. If you got a nice gentle touch, you can really make something pretty nice, and then hit it with a little wet sandpaper, some 400 grit or 500 grit. because ultimately when you hit it with the primer, it's going to fill all that stuff in, right? You don't need to be 1,000 grit sanding anything.
Yeah.
But I like jeweler's files and I like riffler files because you have a lot of control. You know, with a riffler file, you can make tiny little circles and just get rid of the little tits where the contact points touched it.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever use like files or anything like that to kind of, you know, I guess kind of carve in more details or kind of, you know, chips or weathering or anything like that to kind of accentuate, you know, the model a little bit?
You could, I guess. I don't do any of the chipping stuff. I've tried that. I didn't try very hard at it. I watch a lot, like, you know, the word to the wise today is the armor modelers, right? Watch one of the armor modelers, like Panzermeister. That guy is like otherworldly with his talent. And I have gotten some techniques from him, but I haven't tried the chipping part of it. Most of the stuff I do, I don't know that the chipping would lend itself to it. It might.
Okay.
But I get requests to build a lot of ag stuff for people, and if I'm doing loads, I'm typically doing loads as if they're being shipped, so the stuff would be brand new looking.
Sure.
And the rail cars, I guess back to the lazy part, I don't know how much chipping would do for you on a flat car. There's not a lot of sill on it to chip away. You know, you can kind of do that with paint, dry brushing, and oils and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I actually do my flat card decks. It takes me about half an hour to do a flat card deck like the one that you just saw, and I think they look fine. And I'm back, you know, to look. I have flat cars that people have seen at shows in my booth. I'm not bringing any of my models this time. I've got a display stand I'm going to build. People kept trying to pick them up, and I had signs out, and that didn't work. And I would tell them not to, and it didn't work. And I get it, you know, they just want to take a look.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have a stand for those. I just haven't had time to build it. But I've had flat cars at shows that guys have offered me big money for, and one of them was a Revell HO scale flat car with a load on it, and the guy offered me pretty good money for it, and I'm like, no, they're not. None of them are for sale. They're for me for display. I didn't have the heart to tell him it was like a $3 flat car.
Yeah.
And it did its job, right? I put nice trucks on it. I put nice couplers on it. I painted and weathered the deck, and then I put a really nice load on it. And I think that's what people should be looking at is the load. The flat car is it's like a pizza box, right? You're not looking at the pizza box. Not if you're hungry. Looking at the pizza. And I think if you have Gons have more side on them, so I think the chipping stuff might do better on a gondola. But and then the steel mill stuff, I just weather the snot out of that. If you've ever been even near a steel mill or seen photos of one, that stuff is painted the day they start it up, and then it's never touched again by a paintbrush. So
yeah, it's pretty much just caked on from just all the abuse and everything.
Right. Yeah, steel mills are fun. Steel mills are fun to weather. A lot of that industry stuff is fun to weather because you can just be like super heavy-handed on it, and then people tell you it looks great. And you're like, wait a minute, I kind of screwed that up, but no, it looks good. Okay, I'm good with it.
So what's next for Tully Models? Obviously, you're going to be at St. Louis RPM this weekend.
I am, yeah, and then Chattanooga the weekend after. And I wish the NMRA wouldn't do that, but
yeah. So how many tables are you bringing?
I don't know how many have I got there. 1, 2, 3. I think there's 10, 8 or 10. I can never remember.
Oh.
I've learned to always ask a show, are your tables 8 feet or 6 feet? Because I got burned pretty heavy one time on 6-foot tables. I didn't have enough room.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets to the point, my son is getting old enough that he can start coming with me, but I feel bad because people want to ask questions and there's like one of me, but I think people maybe recognize that and they don't mind waiting a little bit, but I try to bring what I think everybody will want, and it's grown to like 8 or 10 tables. I can't really do much bigger than that, but this year we're against the back wall or the side wall, whatever you want to call it. Me and Jeff Otto from Oak Hill Model Railroad Supply, we kind of we're kind of partners in crime on where our booths are. But I actually like being against the wall. We were just talking today about if we could be against the wall at most of these places, our display would be better. You know, we would have like a backer wall thing that we would bring. And I was just telling him today, I really want to get some TV monitors that can have slideshow kind of stuff with finished models and also parts on it.
Yeah.
I feel like
that's one thing.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was
No,
just
go
gonna say, I feel like as far as like, you know, kind of, I used to work at a company, and we kind of did a lot of the marketing stuff and whatnot for, like conferences and stuff. And it was always fun for me to sit there and kind of create the graphics and stuff. But it was always interesting kind of seeing people, you know, how you kind of catch their attention with, you know, just some really good pictures, you know, just on a screen and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
definitely recommend that for sure. That'd be cool to kind of go and see that stuff just kind of sliding through.
Well, the other thing is too, you know, I've got, and I'm not trying to brag in any way. I've got like 600 items just in HO scale on my website, and you know, they don't all sell. I'm not saying I've got 600 top 40 hits, but I can't bring everything to a show. And so what I do bring is what I think, like in the Midwest, this weekend, I won't have a lot of steel mill stuff and heavy industry stuff there. I've tried, and it just, you know, they're ag people. They're modeling BNSF and UP and stuff like that. And, you know, they just don't service steel mills really, or big giant industry things, but ag is huge. And so guys, I think the ag stuff does a lot better at St. Louis. So that's primarily what I bring. As I go east, I usually bring more heavy industry stuff, but yeah, so this weekend I'll have a ton of ag stuff, and I don't bring all the ag stuff either. I bring what I think is maybe people would want, and I of course, so I bring new stuff. I am bringing some other new stuff that I'm going to be releasing at the show, but I don't really, because I'm doing this job, you know, as a personal note, because I'm doing this job and my commute is like 30 feet. Like my wife and I's bedroom is upstairs. I stop through the kitchen, get a coffee, and come down here. And so I don't go out to the public a whole lot, you know, but I do go to the gym. I don't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I do go to the gym. And some dirtbag had gone to the gym with whatever plague was going around in June. And I would have more new things to bring to the show, but I was literally sick for like 10 days. And I only get sick like maybe once a year. And I had a fever and all this other garbage, and I was on the couch, and I lost like 10 days. So I've got all these orders stacked up, and I have new items too that I can't bring because I just did not have the time to, it really sucked my schedule dry. It doesn't sound like a lot of time, 10 days, but it's not like I have a crew working in here. I don't have any elves. So
I'll say that's a pretty good chunk of time whenever it's just, you know, you.
Yeah, right. I need my son told me I need elves to be working down here when I'm asleep. So
Somebody made a comment, and I saw a post from you either today or yesterday. These Agway grain trucks. Is this something new?
Is Jazz 0573? Is that Jazz Miller from Australia, Mr. Redding guy with the Redding? So Jazz and I work together on this Agway truck product. I don't know how those guys do the voodoo that they do with all the with the vehicles. Billy over at Dark Wolf and Justin Grimm and all those guys. I don't understand how they do that stuff. I would be out there with a measuring tape and it would take me 5 years to draw a truck. And these guys are like one after the other with the trucks. And so I worked for Agway when I was 14, and I'd always wanted to do one of those Brockway trucks. And I said something to it to Jazz one day, and he goes, "Oh, I could do that truck for you." And I'm like, "Get out of here." He goes, "No, I could do the truck for you. You could sell it over there." So Jazz did whatever voodoo he does with the trucks. And my wife and I just boxed them up today. So we'll have the Brockway 457 cab overs with the grain body on them with the Agway decals. It's at Colorado RPM. I will actually be at the Colorado RPM. I'm actually gonna sponsor the show too. I need to get. I keep saying that to
Chris.
no, the lady that runs the show. I know her. I know her personally, and I can't think of her name. It's brain fart.
Michelle Kempema.
Michelle Kempema. Yeah, I've been saying that to Michelle, and I need to get after that. I've just been getting ready for the show, but I'm actually going to sponsor the Colorado RPM. I really think that's going to be the next big thing is the Colorado RPM. I don't know what you guys think, but I think that's the next big thing.
I've been to the St. Louis RPM the last 3 years, and it's the best thing that I've been to because it's all about the models and everybody's so nice. The only reason I'm not going this year is because now the National Train Show's in Chattanooga, so it's an hour and a half away, and with gas at $4 a gallon, I just kind of had to pick my battles this year. So
yeah, I'm going to Chattanooga. I don't have a giant love affair with the National Train Show, only because it bounces all over the place. And so if it's close, Chattanooga is not exactly close for me. It's like a 10-hour drive with, stopping for lunch or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it's close enough. And the big draw is the Craftsman Courtyard guys. So I'm in with those guys, the Craftsman Courtyard posse or mob. And I'm friends with a bunch of those guys, and it's a really good coalition of cottage industry owners. And so they went to Novi last year, and I was with them there last year. And I believe next year they're going to Washington State, which I will not go to. I'm not. When I was younger, I would drive that far, but I'm not to do it now.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Well, it probably makes it easier that you're coming to St. Louis. So St. Louis to Chattanooga is not that bad.
Well, Chattanooga, so I'll come home between. There's, I'll have like 4 days in between. I'll come home and try to refit as much as I can. I don't know.
Okay.
I need to refit, but I'm going to try. That's the big reason I don't like. That's the big reason I don't like the shows so close together. I actually talked to someone from NMRA. I'm like, why do you guys keep having the National Train Show literally 5 days or 6 days after St. Louis? It makes no sense, and I'm like, I don't know that you're going to get as many people as you would if it was, say, even a month after St. Louis. I'm sure it has something to do with the venue that they're getting. They got to get into the schedule for the convention center or whatever. So I kind of get that, but I think it's going to be in Rochester, New York the year after, I think. 28, and I might go to that. My sister, that's where I'm from. I'm not from Rochester, but I'm from close to there, and my sister still lives there, so I might take that show in.
Okay.
But Colorado RPM for sure. I really, in my observation, not necessarily just with model train stuff, but when you have a hobbyist that tries to pick the show, car show, train show, whatever kind of show, they go okay. But when you have a business person that's in the hobby and they start a show, it usually goes very well. And I know Michelle is, I'm probably wrong. I think she's got some kind of degree in business or industry management or something like that. And I just have a feeling that it's going to be the venue looks really nice. I've heard really good things about people that have been out there. So, and I think we need a show in that area that's a really quality show like St. Louis is.
I agree.
People won't have to travel as far, the guys that are in Utah and Wyoming and California and Nevada and all that. I think it's a little shorter drive for them. So I think it'll be that crowd.
Yep, I agree. I wish I could go this year, but I'm going to be in Colorado 2 weeks before that. But Anthony will be there, right?
Yep, I'll be there.
Oh, good.
Yep. Yep, and Joe will be there. But
I'm trying to talk Jeff from Oak Hill Model Railroad supplied into going out there with it too. So I don't know
So,
that any of the courtyard guys will be into it, but they're mostly East
So
Coast.
before we wrap everything up, what's on the future for Tully Models?
For products or for shows?
Either.
Well,
Either.
I'll be at Colorado and Amherst both. For products, really my next big launch is going to be the vertical limestone kilns. They actually are done except for the stair tower, and I've been working on a methodology for building a stair tower. If anybody's ever scratch built one, they can be a royal pain in the ass to do anything that's tall. And so I believe that I have the stair tower down with some fixtures that they'll come in the kit that will allow you to hold the 4 columns in place while you're building the stair tower. And actually one of the fixtures allows you to put a platform in. You basically build the platform from the bottom up, but you slide the fixture as you're going, and the fixture allows you to put both platforms, the one below and the next one up, in place with a flush surface so that it's true. And then you slide the fixture up and do the next ones, and then you can put the stairs in after. And that's the only really big thing that's delayed it. I've actually got 2 prototypes sitting here. I just haven't built the stair tower, and I haven't had time to build them, honestly. But in August, my plan is to finish the stair towers and then do what will probably be a massive instruction book to go with them. I actually will probably, I see guys mentioning the paper, I'm assuming the paper mill industry, on wood chip loaders, huh?
Anything lumber I'm into as well. I think there's a lot of people out there into that, and there's just not a lot of kits for us. And I think that's huge for you.
I have purchased some books on paper mills. It was really hard to find them. The steel industry or the cement industry, whatever, you can go out there and there's books all over the place. Both from a photographic standpoint as well as technical books. And for the paper mill industry, you can go on YouTube and just type in steel mill, and you'll get enough videos to keep you busy 24 hours a day for 3 weeks. The lumber or the paper mill industry, there's a few videos. Most of them are either Chinese, which, I don't speak Chinese. And the stuff is ultra modern in those videos. And I'm assuming for paper mill guys, you're more interested in 70s, 80s, 90s technology, because I don't know how much those mills see an upgrade, but I feel like that's the era people would want to model, not necessarily for the trains, but for the industry itself. And so I found some books, and they have illustrations in them. That's the other thing that's different. If you get a steel mill book, like the Making, Shaping, and Treating of Steel, which came out like every 5 to 7 years, there's actually diagrams in there of the machinery that you are easy to translate into a model. It took me forever to find paper mill books like that. And I actually did find a set, and I've looked through them a little bit, but I haven't dove into it and actually discovered everything. So it'll probably maybe something I could work on next year is getting out some paper mill items. Especially a lot of the stuff now it seems to be in a like an R panel building instead of out in the exposed weather. Yeah. So even using modern videos, you can't go look at things that I'm assuming in one of the old videos I watched, it seemed like all that stuff was just out in the weather. And that would be the interesting stuff to see, right? Because I don't do interior steel mill parts really, because there's another guy that does some of that stuff, but mostly because if you go by a steel mill, you can't see the inside of a rolling mill usually. It's in a big R panel pole barn. And so when you model it, you either have to leave the side off and do all the interior stuff, or you just put the side up and all the magic happens inside. And if you were doing an ultra modern paper mill, I would think it was the same. You put up a bunch of kit bashed Rick's Products buildings and all the magic happens inside and lumber comes out one end, you know. But that's why I think guys probably want to do more of the 70s, 80s stuff, and that stuff was still more outside and you could see all the interesting machinery and whatever. So it's taken a while to do the research to even find all that information, but I have a bunch of it. So I can definitely do some paper mill stuff or just lumber industry stuff. Maybe I can work on that for 27.
So my last question is, if people have a model that they want, is that something that you do on a regular basis, that they could just go take photos and get all the stuff for you, send it to you, and you'd make it for them? Is that something in your business model?
Yeah. So as this professional scale modeling part, and I do have a schedule. I have, if it's a small model, I usually will try to sneak that in. But if it's something big, like my customer in Tennessee wants an O scale blast furnace, so that's not even a 30-day project, because it's O scale. Everything's freaking gigantic. But I do have a schedule. I actually could probably scale model 40 hours a week for the next 13 months for projects people have ordered from me. But like I said, if somebody wants something smaller, I try to work it in. You know, if it's something I know I can have done in like a week, I'll just slide it in there and get it done and deliver it. And then I do deliver, but you pay me to deliver it to you.
So if they have a kit that they want to build, is that something proprietary to them that you don't sell that, or is that, how does that work?
So typically, if a person wants me to do a widget building, and I think it's something that's going to sell, I will. If they're asking for something that's proprietary, I don't really build a kit and then hand it off to somebody and they go produce the kit. I don't do that.
Yeah.
If they want a scale model built for their layout, and it makes more sense for me to 3D print or laser cut or whatever the kit, what I typically do is I will manufacture the kit for sale to everyone, but the one that I build for them, I give them a pretty deep discount where they're really just kind of paying for the materials.
Yeah.
Because in the end, they pay less in labor when I'm not scratch building everything. If I can sit at the computer and draw up the building and laser cut it, rather than sit and, you know, lay out everything on the wood or the plastic and then sit and cut it out over several evenings. I mean, I get paid hourly for, it's time and materials. I get paid hourly for scale modeling. So it's more cost effective for you to let me do it my way. And then I sell the kit because I think it might be fun or something someone else wants. And that's something that everybody should know too. I don't know that I really had designs to sell the Farina, the Ging original elevator, the gray buildings. And I was putting them together and I put a picture up and the thread lit up like a Christmas tree. Are you going to sell those? And I didn't think anybody would want them because the elevator itself is going to be pretty expensive. It's a big kit too. It takes up a big footprint. And I know a lot of guys are shelf modeling now, or they're making little smaller switching layouts. So the big structure like that, I didn't know if it would sell or not. And I actually had two people ask me if I could do the kit in O scale. You know, the thing is already like 38 inches long. In O scale, it's going to be like 6 feet long.
Wow.
But I guess if you got O scale, you got room to do O scale. I don't know. So
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
I'm sure you've considered that if you're into O scale and you have several $1,000s tied up in brass engines or whatever. So
Yep.
um,
Uh,
I know it's hard
Cody,
for us to understand those guys, but it's hard for me to understand because everything is
I
so
can.
but
Yeah.
but yeah, so I mean, in answer to your question, I don't do proprietary things for people. If I have drawn CAD models for other people. You pay me for the file, and you pay me for the hourly labor rate for drawing CAD. And then you do with it what you want. I do not provide a supported file. That's your business. The way I support my models is my business, and I've never shown anyone what I do. And I'm not some kind of, wizard black art guy, but I have figured out what works, and it's my proprietary way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a business owner. I do the same thing. Like I'm glad to tell you what I do, but I'm not going to show you how to do it.
Yeah, right. I mean, I learned that in the car building world.
Yeah, I still got to eat.
in one way, the hard way. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so I will do CAD work for people, and I will provide a model that you could 3D print, and that's your business, but you're going to pay me for it. And I'm not the only guy that does that. Everybody that's an artist, the fellow that owns 3D Central, his brother does drawings for other people other than 3D Central, and they pay him for it. So, I'm not unique.
Cody, Anthony, you guys got anything before we wrap this up?
Joe asked, what is the preferred way of contacting you, Kevin?
Oh yeah, I was going to say, give us your website, Facebook, YouTube, email, everything.
It's tullymodels.com with no E. That'd be Tully. Tullymodels.com on the internet will take you right to my site. You can email me from there. Although you can go on Scale Modeling by Kevin J. Tully or Industrial Modeler Supply or Southern Tier Grain Modeler Supply. They all have Facebook pages. You can message me on there, but I encourage people not to do that. Just email me, because when you have 4 different things you're supposed to look at for who's contacting you, things get lost, and I don't want anybody getting upset because I don't answer them back. I do have a family life too, and I have to do work, so I try to get back to people in a timely fashion. I may not be the best at that, but I do get back to people within a couple days usually. And sometimes I get back to them 30 seconds after they email me. So
yeah, I was going to say you were pretty receptive to my messages, but I didn't want to bother you too much because I know you're loading up and getting ready for 2 shows, and I was like, I'm glad you decided to do the show for us, because like I said, I know you're getting ready to go to St. Louis, and I can't imagine what your schedule looks like right now. So,
well, my wife cuts me off because I would work until I fell over. It's just kind of neat. Last night she said, "You're done. come to the couch, relax for a couple hours."
You need that balance, but
well,
thanks for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure having you on and seeing your work, and we wish you all the best. Yeah.
I was honored that you'd have me on here. I always tell people I'm the least famous person you'll ever meet. And
actually, you're the first manufacturer we've had on the show. So we've had all 3 metal railroaders. So, but I've been watching your stuff for a long time, and I was like, we got to get this guy on here and show his stuff off. So. Yeah,
well, feel free to ask some of the other guys. They're super friendly, like the guys I know, like Stephen Milley over at Railscale. He's super friendly, and the gentleman that owns Berkshire Valley Models right now, I believe he's on Facebook. He's super friendly. He and his wife are just great people. Jeff Otto from Oak Hill Model Railroad Supply. He's a great guy to talk to. Super knowledgeable about track. A lot of these guys are super friendly, so don't be shy to reach out to them and say, "Hey, man, would you want to talk with us for a little bit?" So,
absolutely. Well, hopefully the show will help you out and you'll get some orders in.
Yeah. Well, I want to get the ones out that I have, and I'm happy to have more. But the one thing I always try to tell people is I'm a one-man show. So if when I got sick, my orders got behind, and I felt real bad about it. But
life happens.
When you're the one-man band, there's not
Yep.
much singing going on if you're not feeling well. So, and I do go on vacation once a year. We just came back from our family vacation, and I like people to hopefully just understand that I only go once a year. So family is pretty important to me. So,
Yep. Well, fantastic. Well, that's the show up. Do you guys have anything?
Nope.
No.
Not
You
at all.
good?
thanks for having me, guys. It was a great time.
Yeah.
Hopefully I
and
didn't
I'll
talk
see
too much.
no, I'll see you in Chattanooga in a couple of weeks.
All right, we'll see you guys. Have a good evening.
Awesome.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Y'all guys.
You guys.
Bye, guys.